Good morning, good afternoon and good night. This is E.T. in his beautiful outdoor studio. I want to discuss further, and I think everyone should discuss further and quietly and politely, without throwing stones at each other, Brian Cox versus Malcolm Roberts as a study in how science should be conducted. The ABC have tried to make out that Brian Cox is more intelligent than Malcolm Roberts. Malcolm Roberts an idiot because he disagreed with Brian Cox. Brian Cox, one thing, is a theoretical physicist. He delves in theory about physics which anyone can read about. Anyone at all can pick up books and read about particle physics or quantum theory and learn all about it. You might not be able to do the maths, but you can learn and gain a picture in your head exactly the same as all the theorists do, all the physicists do. The question is, how many physicists does it take to study a light bulb? But how many physicists could build a bridge? An engineer, Malcolm Roberts, I suspect has got an engineering background, because he seems to go for facts rather than theory, so he's likes to be more certain and more rigid before he makes a decision. People are making decisions about climate when they're not certain. They're not even certain about what the economic effect or financial effect is about the policies they enact in regard to climate change. And this is the question for people like Brian Cox and the ABC and all the brilliant people out there who are believers. Like we're back in Rome, where people believed in all these ancient gods. Now we believe in climate change. If you don't agree with climate change, well, you're going to have the mob throw stones at you, like it used to be in the past. That's where we are now, and that's exactly where Brian Cox has taken science, back to the Stone Age. He hasn't advanced science, he's taken it back. Because if these people are so clever, these quantum physicists, then how come they do not understand the quantum effect on the generations in the future of the economic policies happening now, considering that robots are going to take the jobs over in the future? That's the equation that people like Brian Cox ought to concentrate on if they're so clever. Their talents and intelligence are wasted examining light bulbs. They spend all their lives examining a light bulb, millions of them. In every university there's a quantum physicist, just like Sheldon Cooper, which is a bit like Brian Cox, a bit like Sheldon Cooper, celebrity quantum physicist hired in universities to give them a reputation to attract students. But what are they going to do about the economic situation? He said leave it to the experts. Well, who is an expert? Surely, if Brian Cox is more intelligent than Malcolm Roberts, like the ABC, Tony Jones and the ABC tried to make out, how come Malcolm Roberts wants to ask questions about the economic effects of Brian Cox? Apparently, he's aware of it, but has never engaged his brain once to the most important question in regard to climate change. And he doesn't really, if he was so smart, how come he didn't realise he was being used by the ABC? That's the question. He does not understand that quantum theory applies to the evolutionary process. You throw in a mem into society and it gradually alters the fractal patterns within the emotions of the culture over a period of 3 generations. So therefore you're applying quantum physics with evolutionary theory to fractal theory. That's a practical application of quantum theory, or in a philosophical sense. Maybe Brian Cox has been too busy looking at light bulbs and the stars to see what's happening down here on Earth. So he's been blinded by the light, if you like many of these scientists have. And apart from climate science is not an empirical science. To say anything else is just bullshit. But that's the question to people like Brian Cox. What is your ideas that are going to solve the economic problems facing the masses of people as we enter the robot age, that will affect them far greater than the changing climate? Because therefore it's all a diversion. Climate may be changing. We may need to do something about it. What we can do about it. But John Lomborg has got the best theories on that, and he was chased away from Australia. And Australia does not treat people equally. He treats people, he sucks up to one people who are going to say the right thing and chases away those who might ask questions. It's like Rome. 1500 years ago, 1600 years ago, they used to chase people who asked questions about the gods, chase away with stones. Well, Brian Cox has just taken science back to the Stone Age, and he ought to think about what he's done. It's not climate change is the quandary, it's what he's done for science that is the problem. All those kids mesmerised in the audience have no idea what science is, never hardly been involved in it, and suddenly they've been, by Brian Cox himself, they've had science debased. Malcolm Roberts, who's into science, obviously in a practical sense, and it's a very, very clever trick. The ABC tried to make him look dumb. By God, they've made Brian Cox look dumb. Sorry, Brian. I mean, this is the thing. Your challenge for you is to come up with systems what affect the people in a positive sense through practical policies over the next 10 years or so. Will tackle this robot age coming, which will affect people far more than climates. Climates are a natural phenomenon anyway. If no one ever mentioned climate change, no one will be bothered. You know, the thing is, and the quantum theory is, if you observe the experiment, you then change the experiment. Well, that applies to climate science. You observe the climate, so therefore, in your own head, you've changed the climate, and you've changed the process. Thank you.